All right. Welcome to another episode, yet another episode of Hack and Grow Rich. This is Shaheen Shayan with my co-host, Bart Baggett, the success and wealth secrets coach, which is Bart. And my name is Shaheen Shayan. I am a experienced Amazon seller, Amazon consultant, and author of the upcoming book, Billions. Bart, welcome, buddy. How's it going?
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun co-hosting this with you. We've got lots of emails, lots of Instagram. People tend to be responding to this whole hacking, and I just love what you even said last month or last week about you took a coupon to your first date with your wife. Like it's mind-boggling. It's not Dan Bilzerian. Like that's not real. Wealthy people do things differently, and I love the fact that we're getting to pick your brain. I'm getting to shine some light on some of the things I've done. And today we're going to talk about resilience and what happens when they get canceled, what happens when the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. How do you manage that emotionally so that that one issue, whether it's divorce or bankruptcy, doesn't make you, start over at go, like in a Monopoly board?
Yeah. And I love that. And if you are playing in the Amazon seller game, if you are an e-commerce seller, if you are selling something or conducting business on one of these top 5 platforms, Amazon, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, if you're marketing on those platforms, what happens when you expect one thing and then the next day you get something else? Well, life does not always meet your expectations, and sometimes it's quite the opposite. So, Bart, in the Amazon business, we talk a lot about what you do when your Amazon account gets suspended. How do you deal with that? Because there's millions of people all over the world who put so much love and so much work and so much effort into building Amazon businesses. And then one day, all of a sudden, it's gone and their account is suspended. So let's back up a little bit. And I actually wanted to talk to you about something today, Bart, and I don't think you're going to like this, bud.
Uh-oh, where's
But
this going?
yeah,
You canceling my Amazon
unfortunately,
booksellers account?
yeah,
Jeez.
unfortunately, Bart, I can't be your friend anymore. And, I have to tell you, you violated our terms of friendship. And unfortunately, we can't be friends anymore.
Shaheen,
And
I didn't even know we had terms of friendship. Was that like on a secret page somewhere? I don't remember that handshake.
so that's a really good question. Unfortunately, because you violated our terms of friendship, I can no longer talk to you. And if you continue to talk to me, I will have to cancel this call.
But I need to talk to you about why it's canceled. There must have been some mistake. Like, can I just call you and talk about it? Like, do you have a customer service
I am
rep?
sorry, sir. Please refer to our terms of friendship. And if you continue this conversation, I will have to cancel the call and cancel the conversation.
Shaheen,
And
I put 7 years into this friendship. You can't just like not tell me why you're breaking up.
I am sorry. Our terms of service are very clear. And unfortunately, all our findings are final. So, of course, Bart, I am joking, but that is exactly how it works in Web 3.0. So, in the beginning of the internet, these things wouldn't happen that much. It was the Wild West. And then we had Web 2.0, where the platform started to realize that they need some form of regulation. Otherwise, they're going to be liable for all their patrons, consumers, whatever you call it, subscribers, ill deeds. So they started to clamp down. Now, Web 3.0 is something that we discovered sometime, I think, around 2010, which was absolutely shocking, particularly on the Amazon platform. Now, as we're sitting here, I actually have a LinkedIn account that's been banned, and it was the most hilarious message that they sent us. Dear sir, your account has been canceled for violation of terms of service. And mind you, the LinkedIn terms of service, I don't know if anybody reads the terms of service, but they are hundreds of pages long in legalese. I don't, when you open up a Facebook account, a LinkedIn account, who reads the terms of service? So somewhere in there in those hundreds of pages, there's something that you have violated. Now, it's exactly like the conversation that we just had. where they will send you a message saying, they have soft suspension. So Amazon does the same thing. There's soft suspensions where they say your account has been canceled. If you feel this was an error, please reach out to customer service. They don't give you a phone number. There's nobody to call. There is no email. And you have to figure out how to get a hold of them. Right? Now, after you find out how to get a hold of them, you will likely get a similar response. Dear sir, thank you for reaching out. We realize that your account has been canceled. It was because violations of terms of service. Please don't contact us again. And so people are in this loop. Now, if you have a day job and these things aren't that important to you, I suspect that a great majority of people will just give up, or they'll open up another account, right? They won't care about their, stuff if they can open up another account. But for the people who, Bart, have to deal with these things as being part of their livelihood, their Amazon business being a part of their livelihood, their Facebook account being part of their livelihood, their LinkedIn accounts being a part of how they feed their families, they now have to go back and figure out why they have an Amazon account suspension, a Facebook account suspension, a LinkedIn account suspension, and then try to get into a mini lawsuit with the quasi-governmental agency. I don't even want to call it a governmental agency, but let's just say quasi-agency. That's really these big companies. And so for years, we tried to figure out, accounts get closed down, and then, we follow a very specific procedure, and we've kind of figured out how to get them back up, but it's down for a while. They slap you on the wrist, and, especially if you haven't done anything. And a lot of this stuff could be competitors. So if you're a competitor of someone, you report them, right? It's very Gestapo-ish, right? Like kids reporting their parents and like friends reporting their friends. It's very much like that. That is very much encouraged in these big companies. And
it reminds me, in the early days of email, your competitors would spam your email address on purpose, or they would send the bot, and then all of a sudden your email service, like Infusionsoft, would say, no, we're no longer sending any of your emails to 100,000% list because you're a spammer. And all of a sudden you didn't do anything, but now you're being punished because some bot happened, and all of a sudden you can't send email for 4 weeks. And guess what? For some people, that was their only marketing avenue in 2003. Like, that was it. There was no Facebook. There was no MySpace. So I get it, even if it's not your fault. So you kind of like rebuilding your credit, you create a system to go back and reactivate these Amazon stores. That's really fascinating.
Right. So true. So this is, how we get, big Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies have hired us to reinstate their Amazon accounts after they've thrown their hands up there. Big boardrooms filled with attorneys couldn't get it up. My company, Accelerated Intelligence, that's part of the service that we provide in our, as well as accelerating Amazon companies and doing Amazon SEO and that kind of stuff, is getting these companies reinstated and back in the good graces of these companies. Now, here's the interesting part about this. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of what you do if, let's say, your Amazon account, for example, is canceled. So now, assuming there's two different tactics. One is if it's a hard rejection, which means they literally will write you, never talk to us again. They will say, this case is closed. This decision is final. Do not contact us. And then they'll give you some ultimatum. Like, if you try to contact us, we will never contact you again. But the letter says, don't ever contact us again. This decision is final. And then if you try to contact,
breaking up with you, and I've already married somebody else. Yes, done.
Yeah, no, I'm breaking up with you. I already married up with someone else. And if you contact me again, I'm gonna more not talk to you. So that's a hard suspension. A soft suspension is if you feel they give you space to break out. So let's talk about the soft suspension first. So if you get an Amazon account suspended and it's a soft suspension, they will give you an opportunity to appeal. Now, you have to, on your own, research the address for email appeals. You have to find an address, and you have to go out there. And we teach, part of my Amazon course, by the way, how to do this in great detail. And there's several hacks that you can do that can accelerate the process and get these accounts back up a lot quicker. But I'm going to tell you the basics of the process of how it works. So you write them a letter and you say, "Dear Amazon, I am so sorry. Now, what you have to do is copy and paste from their letter. Now, that might sound crazy because they send you a one-page letter with weird language like your account has been suspended for violation of terms of service on this day. So you copy and paste exactly what they say. Dear Amazon, I understand that my account has been suspended for suspension for violation of terms of service, da, 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 right? And you're just copying and pasting from their own letter. Why? Because it's bots that are reading these letters at first. It is a combination of artificial intelligence and bots. And I have this on good authority. I can't say from who, but let's just say it's from inside the machine. That it's a combination of bots and foreign employees that go in and deal with this stuff. And most of the stuff is done using using artificial intelligence. Because if you imagine, they're canceling thousands of accounts every day. And those accounts are appealing. And so now they have to have a system. So the first line of defense, which is brilliant, we were always wondering why they do it this way, is sending you a bulk rejection letter. It is a stock rejection letter, Bart, similar to my unfriending of you.
It sounds like the insurance companies of the last 50 years. Just generally reject everybody, let the poor people disappear, and the ones with attorneys come back and we pay the few.
Exactly.
Very similar business model.
Exactly. Right. Because it doesn't matter to them. They're getting new sellers every day. If you go away, it's not part of, the long tail business of Amazon sellers, what this, or the Amazon FBA selling platform. So if you go away, that's fine. In fact, there is some possibility that Amazon might be selling whatever product you were selling themselves. And if you think, no, I'm too small, there's no way they could be selling my private label product, think again. Amazon is a long tail business. There's a fantastic book called The Long Tail that talks about this, how they built it on selling little bits of millions and millions of things. Amazon didn't make their fortune selling one or two things in large volume. So it's the whole game for them. Now,
let me go back before you go on. This is a big deal for people to understand because I've sold on Amazon a little bit compared to you. You're a master. But I'm so small, I think they don't touch me. Some of your clients are so big, they think they're so big they can't fire them. But Amazon doesn't care about either one of those. That's the message you're saying.
They don't care about it. So the first thing you have to realize is, look, Bart, if me and you go on the corner and we're selling whatever we want, we have our own shop, our own website, whatever, we're playing in our own sandbox. We're playing in our own rules. You're going to sell on Amazon, you're going to sell on Facebook, you're going to sell on Walmart, eBay, Etsy, any of these stores. If you become a seller, you got to learn it's no longer your sandbox. You're playing in a big bully with a black eye, bloody knuckles, and he's sitting there in the center, right, eating everybody's candy. And if you're lucky, you can get some of his scraps. That's the picture I want to paint. Now, some of those scraps might be plenty for you, right? It might be good. A lot of people get rich selling on Amazon. My students do very well. We do incredibly well selling on this platform. But what you have to realize is that bully boy's sandbox. And if he doesn't like you, you are inches away from him picking you up like this giant that he is and just dropping you outside of the sandbox, and you no longer exist. So this is the mentality. And all these companies, these top 5 companies that we talked about, and I didn't go into Apple, but all these companies play that same way. So now you get this bulk letter, Bart, and the bulk letter comes back, dear sir, thank you for your appeal. Unfortunately, we don't feel it's sufficient. Bulk rejection again. At this stage, most students start crying because they don't know what they did wrong, right? You don't know what you did wrong. It's hundreds of pages of legalese of terms of service, right? And maybe you did something wrong. Maybe you didn't. Maybe grandma bought your product and left a review. And this is very common. And you were at grandma's house at some point with your phone. They trace IPs. So when you use your phone to buy something on Amazon at your mother's house, your grandma's house, and then your grandma leaves a review, that's linked to your buyer, seller account, whatever. So Amazon knows that you have defrauded them of one review, and they can close your account on that. If a competitor launches a complaint against you saying, hey, this guy solicited me for fake reviews, black hat Amazon seller tactics like this happen all the time. Amazon will look at it and close your account if they feel like it. some guy in India or Bangladesh or Pakistan or Sri Lanka, Costa Rica, wherever they're hiring people, looks at it and he has the final approval to push a button and your account goes away. They don't care. Now, what are they thinking? Okay, well, we don't want to piss everybody off, and we don't want to close the doors on accounts that are making us money. And sometimes we just want to slap people on the wrist. So we're going to make you work for it. We don't want to work for it. We're inundated, and it costs us money to respond to appeals and deal with this stuff. So now you write them another letter saying, please reconsider. And normally it's the same letter that you sent the first time. You just rearrange what you put. You got to be ready for 5 to 6 letters before any movement even happens. Okay. By the 5th letter, you're asking them, hey, what exactly did I do wrong? Right? Officer, why did you pull me over? And to which they're going to say again, you have violated terms of service. They may or may not give you a clue that it's review related, that it's related to your selling tactics, that it's related to a third-party software you're using, or that you in general have sold a counterfeit product, something like that. Right. And most sellers are really, trying their best to abide by all the terms of service, but you can't. It's like every day walking the earth, you are breaking laws in whatever country you're in. Right. It's like that. And it's even more so on Amazon. Right. There's no way to win that game. You can't win the game of selling on Amazon without violating their terms of service to some extent. Every single person does it, including Amazon as a seller on their own platform, if that's possible. So what Amazon now wants you to do, if they've communicated with you 4 or 5 times, sending you these same letters, people are pulling their hairs out going, oh my God, they asked me for invoices. I sent them the invoices and they're now asking me again for invoices, is they want you to fall on your own sword. So I cannot tell you how many times we had done nothing wrong, 0, to violate their terms of service. Not that we never have, but in the cases where our accounts have been canceled. And what we have to do is make up a crime. We have to explain to them a crime that never happened and then provide them proof of that crime. Not a crime against the laws of the country, but a crime against their terms of service. And when you do that, you will get back a letter of one of 2 things. Letter number 1 might be, please provide more evidence of it, and a plan of action, what's known as a P of A, which we can very easily obtain, which basically is just a plan saying, look, we didn't know that having grandma leave reviews was wrong. My grandma loves me, and so she left 4 reviews on our products. I've talked to my grandma and handcuffed her so she can never do it again. Right? And you have to make up, even more ridiculous than that, a fake Amazon crime or a fake Facebook crime or for any of these websites, and then a plan of action about how you will prevent that crime from happening. And you will submit it to them. And what will happen invariably, if it's done right, and we've got a whole formula and templates on the course website, is that they will reject it again. To which they will ask you the same questions. Now, it's a good sign if they say, thank you very much. We've received your thing. Thank you for providing that. We accept your apology, but please provide us more evidence. And again, what you have to do is rearrange the letter. This sounds like, I'm sure later, Bart, reading the transcript of this, it's going to sound like I'm giving crazy advice, but truly, like, this is how that works. I'd like to say voodoo e-commerce selling, only voodoo is a legitimate religion with legitimate strategy and tactics and things behind it. This is completely mind-blowing how this works. And so around somewhere between the 7th to 10th time of sending the same stuff rearranged, using their own language, creating a fake thing that you didn't do, and explaining how you're going to fix it in a plan of action, they accept, and your account somehow is reactivated. And that's how these companies work. How mind-blowing is that? And all of this is your effort. And you can be out, you can be out months before all this process happens, depending on their workload. And this has gotten so bad that there are actually companies. Okay, are you seated, Bart?
I am sitting down.
There are companies that now offer Amazon seller insurance. You can purchase an insurance policy for your Amazon seller account. So should Amazon suspend your account, should one of these platforms suspend your account, this company will use their attorneys, and they'll usually hire a company like ours to utilize our system to get the account back up. And in the meanwhile, they will reimburse you for lost revenue.
That's amazing. I heard Warren Buffett talk about whether they would insure Elon Musk on a rocket today at the annual meeting. And he's like, hey, that's a pretty bad bet. And he said, I would only insure it if Elon Musk was on board. Because if he's on board, they probably won't let that rocket blow up. He didn't say that, but that was the implication because they're in the insurance business. But that's amazing that it happens so much. It's now a sub market because people are getting penalized so often. And this isn't just in Amazon. This happened in Google AdWords, happens in Facebook, it happens in all of the platforms because they own the market. They own the rodeo. They own everything. And once you get in that door, it's kind of like trying to sell soda at the NFL game. You're gonna drink Pepsi if you're at the Cowboy Stadium, right? Because Jerry Jones sold Pepsi. You can't have a Coke in there. That's their ballpark now. I told the credit industry is the same way. There is no incentive for the credit card reporting to talk to you because you're just an expense to them. The customer for the credit cards are to sell your information. So when you have a 590 credit score and all of a sudden someone stole your identity, it takes 7, 8, 12 letters to get your identity back because they don't serve you. You're not their customer. Amazon, you're not their customer, Shaheen. The customers are their customers. You're their vendor. I know it sounds harsh, and I'm not criticizing the Bezos, but like their philosophies make the customer the primary effort, and the vendor seems like they're kind of like interchangeable. Is that unfair to say that about them? Because
Totally
everybody loves that company.
Totally fair. Totally fair. They don't care as much about us as being Amazon FBA sellers as they do their customers. They might pretend, they might say the corporate line of we do whatever. They don't care. It's a business based on customer centricity, on being the world's biggest customer centric marketplace. And that's all. That's all. It's all about the customer experience. And honestly, look, their algorithms all make sense. It's like, why should we utilize Amazon resources for misbehaving children or children that may be misbehaving in our sandbox? You fall on your own sword. You tell me why I put you out of the sandbox. Same with LinkedIn, right? They make you go through these ridiculous hoops of like, upload your ID. Sorry, that ID is poor resolution. Sorry, it's a driver's license. We only take passports. Send us the back of the passport. Why do you need the back of my passport to validate my LinkedIn account? Why would Facebook need to send you 2 texts to your phone and you confirm 3 of your friends? Like, all these things make you run through hoops. And the more work you do, the higher the likelihood of you falling out if you did something bad, right? And then they collect all this evidence on you, which, I don't know, goes into some master file like who is it? The Eastern German secret police, the Stasi, had these, when they separated Germany and then Germany was put back together again, they went in there and they had like files on every man, woman, and child in like between Germany, Austria. I mean, they knew when you farted, they knew like everything. So, what are these?
Very Franz Kafka, the trial. Like they knew everything and just ask you, you're guilty of something. You want to admit it now?
Exactly. And that's the case. And, forward facing, they're like, no, we're equitable. We're about equity. Look at the diversity that we're hiring. Look at, our beautiful, company that we built. And look, I make my living selling on e-commerce. I make my living on all of these platforms, as I'm sure you do to a certain extent as well. And so, it's really, the playground that we're all playing in. And so, it's interesting. And I am a big proponent. I usually am not a proponent of government control over private industry. But in this specific case, I totally am. I think when you get to a certain point where you're one of these top 10 media companies, you become a utility. I think Facebook is a utility, Amazon is a utility, LinkedIn utility, Twitter a utility. And I think they should be governed by laws of the country that they're in, and they should no longer be able to cancel your Facebook account any more so than the phone company can cancel your phone account for you making phone calls to your friends saying things that they don't agree
Well,
with.
there's a court case that just is passing through the Supreme Court where a cheerleader didn't make the cheerleading squad,
Mm,
and that court case was taken up by the ACLU, and they are now ruling whether when she's off school property is she allowed to talk bad about the school. But she's
mm,
using Snapchat, she's using social media, so it's pulling in all this freedom of speech, freedom of platform, the rights of somebody within a school without. It's very similar to what you're saying is that it's a utility because it's almost a monopoly essentially. I know that they haven't identified these as monopolies, but they sure have won. They've won the space. And in Amazon, it's not even the book space. It's everything space. Grocery stores. I mean, they really are winning. And so it's interesting you say that because for so many people, their entire social life is tied into these platforms. So if you say something that you don't like, black, white, Asian, whatever, you get kicked off. But also your livelihood can be tied, especially as a seller. Or in my case, we run thousands and thousands of dollars a day on Facebook and AdWords, and we're constantly having to manage. At least I will tell you this from my experience with AdWords in the last couple of years, they will get on the phone with you and they will work with you and they'll say, here's what the computer said of your error, right? Like we advertise in one of our businesses a lot of handwriting and forgery. And so sometimes it gets flagged as if we're advertising for fraud. Hey, if you want to do a forgery, come over here. Obviously, that's not the language, but the computer picks up these words and says, oh, these are bad words. It's a fraudulent company. And so we're constantly have to go in there. But I will tell you, at least with AdWords, there has been some level of customer service. And they don't know I've been advertising 20 years. Like I'll say, hey guys, I've been on 20 years. Oh, we didn't know that. Like they don't care. They just want to make sure that their computer no longer has a red flag, and if there is a red flag, it's your fault and you got to go fix it. We have dug around websites for 20 hours to find a pixel that they thought was bad. It's a malware. It was a pixel, and so we just recompressed the GIF into a different title, and everything was fine because their computer identified as malware. And that's the kind of struggle you have to go through. Shaheen, if you don't have the manpower or the patience or the team to hire to do that, do you just give up and walk away?
yeah, that's fascinating. Well, you don't have to. So you can research and figure out how to do it. But that actually, this brings me to a very good point. And I actually just got great news for you, Bart. Are you ready?
I need some good news. That was an exhausting 30 minutes of oh, paperwork. Okay, good
Your,
news.
your friendship has been reinstated.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That is great news. I've been waiting for months
I
and
will
no
talk to
emails
you again
returned
now, and we can continue our friendship as
as if
long as you
nothing
don't violate
happened.
the terms of friendship.
I won't do it again. I'm not sure what I did, but I feel pretty sure it was me, and I'm sorry, and I'm punishing my grandmother immediately.
We accept as the Shaheen Corporation. Okay, so which interestingly enough leads me to a question for you, Bart. So when life happens and you expect one thing, you expect to be an Amazon seller, to sell on Amazon, to sell through Google AdWords, to sell through Facebook, to sell on LinkedIn, to do any of these things. And then something happens and you get slapped. Your account gets canceled. Life turns out not the way that you expect. What do you do?
Well, this happened. Do you want me to tell you when it happened? I mean,
Yeah.
for those of you that are in their 30s, you may not remember this, but there was a time when there was no internet, or at least no internet marketing, and there sure was no social media. So when I published my first book in 1993, man, that ages me, doesn't it? But I was young. I was in my 20s. I went on morning radio shows. I toured Barnes and Nobles, and I would sell 100 books. And over a period of a week or two, I'd go to 7 cities and I would do 7 radio shows. And I would, that's how you promoted books back then, right? You couldn't buy ads on Facebook that didn't exist. And then at some point between 1993 to around 2000, I had like a full-time booker. I'd do 5 or 6 radio shows a week. We'd make $8 to $30,000 on one interview, and the 800 numbers would ring. Like, we just did it. I was like, man, I can't believe I'm 25. I figured this out. We're making so much money. This is amazing. We're selling courses. We're building lists, and within about 12 months there, all the radio hosts started giving the website out, and they refused to give the 800 number out. And me and all the other people that were making a living doing guest hosting, being the guest expert, we went from $300,000 a year down to nothing. And literally within about a year, it just stopped working, Shaheen. People just stopped dialing 800 numbers. They stopped with that whole business model. The bookers disappeared, and we could still get on radio shows, but no one would buy because they had this thing called the internet. So within just 12 months, the entire business, I know it now because I understand funnels now. I didn't get it then, but my lead generation was all about one thing: radio shows, publicity, 800 numbers. That was it, right? We did one stint on Home Shopping Network, right? But it all disappeared. And what did I do? I said, well, I got to learn internet marketing. And so Shaheen and I spent the next 3 or 4 years figuring out how to do email, how to write copy, how to run ads, and I had to go back to school, or I could have quit. Those are my options. Where's the other sandbox? How do I make friends with the bully? I better go learn. That's how I did it.
So how do so I think that's awesome because you are one of the more resilient people that I know.
I may not have done it if I wasn't in my 20s or early 30s, right? Because I'm older now, so I may not have the energy. But yeah, I just did. Failure wasn't an option, but it sure was disappointing to have this gravy train just disappear. And it happens in all industries. I know a lot of people that have always been in the network marketing business. And after knowing them for years, it's like, what are you selling now, dude? Oh, yeah, that company went under. Like, they had the same skill set, but they kept hitching their wagon to the wrong train. And they hit the wrong horse. Like, they kept hitching the wagon, and all of a sudden, every couple of years, they got to start over. So how do you mitigate against that? Obviously, it's diversification. But in business, putting all your marbles in that one basket is really, really dangerous. And so many people are doing it today with Bitcoin and with the stock market and with certain kind of real estate. Like, they're all in this one thing that they know and love. And all of a sudden you have a pandemic or you have a crash in 2008. And man, there are no more mortgage bankers in 2008. Everyone's making money mortgage banking, and then 2009 they're waiting tables. Boom. So the answer is prevention and then resilience. What's your best answer? And I'm sure that's happened to you many times in different industries.
Look, I think you have to always think upstream. There's a great book I touted a lot. I think it's Dan and Chip Heath, the Heath brothers. They wrote a lot of the great books that I love. But the book talks about how successful people solve future problems now. And I think that's part of what we're talking about. So, it comes back to what we talk about on every podcast, something that my friend Wayne Boss shared with me. Wayne Boss, the CEO, mergers and acquisition king of Australia. He talks about knowledge, courage, action, and objectives, strategy, and tactics. So what's our objective? Our objective is to be successful in selling on Amazon, to be successful in whatever the business is that we're in. Okay, what's strategy that we're going to use to achieve that? One strategy could be thinking upstream, that we are not bulletproof. We are playing in this bully's sandbox, and we need to be mindful of them, and we need to have multiple plan Bs and plans. Like you said, you like plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, having multiple plans upstream, that here's what happens if there's a problem. Here's what happens if we can't solve a problem, right? You're thinking 5 moves ahead in chess. Okay. So first off, you have to have that mindset. You have to be unexpectant of everything going smoothly, because things never go perfectly as you plan. It's like Mike Tyson said once, and I think one of the greatest quotes of all time. And it's, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face by me. And it's so brilliant coming from somebody who was pure boxing at a time where he was the best in the world at what he did. And there's just a purity, there's a flow to that statement it's just real, it's raw, it's it's truth. And it's something that really resonated with me when I heard it, when he first said it, and when I heard it again with him saying it.
You
And
don't know this about Mike Tyson. My dad has a number of children with people other than my mother, and one of my quote stepbrothers was in juveniles hall with Mike Tyson in the 80s up in upstate New York. And even when that kid was 12, he knew nothing but fighting. He was such a badass, and he grew up in the juvenile hall, the streets, like all. I mean, that's just his skill set. That guy knows how to win, and he's been doing it since he was 12. He's great at punching people in the face. And I love that quote. I'd never heard the quote with the phrase "by me" on it. Is that really what he said? Because I love him better now.
I think so. I think so. I remember that's what it was. I mean, that's certainly what he meant, because
I like
you know,
it.
and it's true, right? Bruce Lee used to say the truth is found in combat, which means it doesn't matter how many forms you learn and how many movements you learn and how you know how to kick high and kick low and this and that and the other thing. It's when it's you against the other guy in the street, face to face, who walks out and who's laying on the floor. That's the truth in combat. That's who the better fighter is. And it's truth. So at the end of the day, you have to plan upstream and understand that you will get knocked out every once in a while. And you need to just know, first, you have to know yourself. Right? There's a great saying in Latin. I used to have it over the doors in all my offices, and I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think it's gnothi sutan, something to that extent. And it was something that was in the walls of like some of the great temples and whatnot in the olden days. And it just means know thyself. And it's again another such a poignant thing. Like if you know your own, not just your own strengths, but also your own weakness, like to have that self-knowledge, that self-realization that, hey, I might be able to take one punch, but I can't take two, right? And just put your ego aside and understand that you can plan for that eventuality. You can plan for if that happened. And when it happens, the sting isn't as bad because you had planned for it. If you have a plan, a strategy in place for when something happens, your strategy might not work, but you will have control and you will have perspective. So the strategy may work, the strategy may not work, but you will be coming at it from a place of strength, which is so much more powerful than coming at it from a place of weakness. And I think ultimately, for example, in the example that we used, Bart, with Amazon suspensions, is that you have to plan for that happening. And when that happens with your Amazon account, what are you going to do? So one thing you might do is have an insurance policy. Buy one of these insurance policies. They're not very expensive. And if they're going to pay for your lost revenue, it probably makes sense to have one. Maybe have a contact there at Amazon, establish relationships, right? There's people in departments that you may be able to get a hold of and have them push your case along to a human being if necessary. Another thing is have your plan of actions ready. We have multiple plan of actions ready at the go anytime. And one hack that I will teach you guys is when any of these companies send you a letter, they're not going to tell you this, and I don't know how they feel about me disclosing this information, but I have this on good authority, that the amount of time it takes for you to respond to them is a metric they use to determine how qualified you are to have your account reinstated.
Faster the better.
The faster, the better. Yeah. So we have responses ready for tomorrow's violations that we don't know what they're about, ready to go. And we just fill in a couple blanks and send it in because we know when those letters come in, when those suspensions come in, or, we do it for clients too. So we've got multiple templates that are part of the Amazon Mastery course in the event that happens, and multiple proven templates. And, we're ready to go. We've thought upstream about this problem. And then at the end of the day, there's got to be something about you that says, dude, F it. Like my self-worth, my value as a person, my livelihood, although my source of making money at the moment is tied to this one uh, current stream of revenue, I guess you could say, that it is not my self-worth. I don't have to accept their opinion of me. And I think you, as a success coach, I'm sure you espouse that to your clients as well, that other people's opinions of you really don't matter all that much.
That's one of my dad's favorite quotes. Your opinion of me is not my concern.
Mm.
I really like that quote. And yeah, I guess that you can't call me a motivational speaker or coach. I mostly do group trainings and make videos, but it goes back to how do you then sell them? We used to sell videotapes, Shaheen. Like I'm old enough to sell VHS with my face on it. You know, I remember the world's fastest reader, Howard Berg, and I sat in my uh, garage. We both had this new thing called video camera. This is a true story. And we were filming each other's introductory videos to then hawk on the radio or home shopping network. And that entire first video, I think, was on autofocus and it was in and out of focus. It was so funny. And he got fired from the school system in New York for teaching people how to read quickly because it wasn't in their procedure manual. So he got fired and had to go out and make it on his own.
What was
So
his name again?
Howard Berg.
I think I've read some of his stuff.
World's fastest reader. I took his course. I got it, but if you keep rehearsing it and memorizing it, how to do it. The point was, when I'm still selling the same thing I did 20 years ago as an information entrepreneur. I've got wisdom. You want it. You want to pay me. It can be in a book. It could be a video. It could be a CD. It could be a teachable course, or it could be a coaching program. We're still selling the same. You want my wisdom. It has a price to it, right? You could do it one-on-one or in a book. That hasn't changed in 100 years since Napoleon Hill. But what has changed is all the mechanisms of delivery. And now that we have this great mechanism of delivery, whether it be Audible or who owns the river? And if I can't get my boat down the river because some jackass turned it sideways in the Panama Canal, is it the Panama Canal or Suez Canal?
Suez Canal, I think.
Then now my business is up in the air. And I don't know how you protect against a black swan event like the pandemic.
Mm.
But there are some businesses, and we're the lucky ones that really our business increased in the pandemic.
Yeah.
That had restaurants and yoga studios that went 9-8 months without revenue. We're not saying that you have to predict the pandemic, but guess what? If you had 4 revenue streams, if you had a real estate business, a stock business, a retail business, or a coaching business, probably not all 4 of them are going to go tits up in 1 month.
Okay. You got to explain to me what that term is. Maybe I'm not American enough. I've heard it before, but I'm with you on it.
I think it's like if you die and you go on your back like a pig, your tits are up. I will have to research that because I love that phrase. It just
sounded so relaxing. I was like,
So okay, write us a letter and tell me if I'm wrong about where that came from. My friend used to say it, and I'm like, that is hilarious. I'll steal it. But now that you ask me, I may have it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You're right. At the end of the day, you gotta, I think what you're heading towards is diversification. And, when things like COVID happened, none of us knew what was going to happen during COVID. Like, what was COVID for Amazon sellers? Guys, if you were an Amazon seller during COVID, during the height of COVID, we're still in COVID as we record this, you could not believe the sales numbers because people were not going out and Amazon couldn't handle the sales. Amazon was delivering everything. So whatever you were selling, I mean, I know people who were selling like knitting supplies and were making millions of dollars on Amazon. So it was very real. But, let's say you were in a different business. I think, Bart, what you're saying is a very important teaching is that you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to pivot on a dime, break on a dime and pivot if you have to. Secondly, you got to have the mindset to be able to do that. You can't, once you get hit and you're on the floor, you might not be knocked out. You got to be able to get up and go, okay, so that didn't work. What else can I do? Right? And, that's what we're talking about. I think that's the point that you were making as far as resilience goes, in that you got to be resilient no matter what. And you got to have this attitude that you're going to make it no matter what. And this is, back again to what we're talking about. People call me all the time. They're like, Shaheen, I want to take your course. How do I succeed? We've got a small course now. It's not one of these mass Amazon courses. We've got, just around 100 people in the course. Every single one is vetted by me. I talk to every single one, nearly every week. and every single person is coached to perfection in my program. It's not one of these, buy it and
5,000 people in a seminar later and they don't know
yeah.
your name sort of course. Yeah, of course not.
No, we don't do. I don't do that. I'm interested in seeing people succeed. And at the end of the day, people always ask me like, "What can I do? What can I do?" And who are the people that are successful? So the first thing you need to know is we have 100% success record. 100% of the people who do my program, who follow the instructions, who launch an Amazon business and a product, will succeed using my materials. And I want to keep that. I don't want to mess that up. So I don't want to bring on people who don't who don't want to do it, who don't have the resilience to do that. Now, with that said, the people I know are not going to work out are the people who take kind of like a roulette wheel approach to it, right? They want to throw the little ball, have it bounce, and okay, it landed on black, great, I'm going to make money. Oh, it landed on green, sorry. It landed on red, sorry, I guess I'm a failure. It's not how it works, guys. The way that it works in any of these things, in your business, in my business, in any business, you open up a pizza shop, it's going to work like this, or coin laundry, it doesn't matter, is that you will start and you may succeed, but more likely than not, you will fail a little bit, or you will fail at a bunch of things. And you will have to go in and fix those things. And when you fix those things, something else will break. And it's the resilience that you build, the ability to go in and constantly fix, constantly tweak your mistakes and come back stronger. The ability to have that space, not have to worry about your meal, not have to worry about, if something goes wrong with your Amazon seller business, that your whole life falls apart, is the ability to say, hey, I'm good. I've got this foundational thinking. I've got my 4 pillars, my real estate, my stock investments, my job. And this is one other thing that I'm working on, and I'm going to make it successful. And if you hit that nail on the head enough times, it will go down. Maybe not the first time, maybe not the 10th time, but it will go down. And then you figure it out. And then you get to scaling and acceleration, which is what it's all about. But in order to get to that stage, in order to succeed, and this is what we teach in Amazon Mastery, is that you have to have that mindset of going into something and being there to tweak it. People fail all the time trying to sell on Amazon. People fail all the time in all kinds of businesses. You have more opportunity now than ever to succeed, but you also have more opportunity now than ever to fail. So the people that I have seen succeed over and over and over again don't come at it with an attitude of, oh, look at that, I guess there goes my money, I guess this is done. They come at it with the attitude of, I'm going to hit that nail until it succeeds. Oh, I tried selling lemon juicers, that didn't sell well. Okay, great, now I'm going to sell lemon juicers instead of garlic presses instead of lemon juicers. Oh, okay, I made a little bit of money, but then I lost on this other thing. No problem, I'm going to sell dog treats now. It doesn't matter. They're going to make it succeed. They're going to take that thing and bring it to fruition. And if you have that attitude and carry that attitude with you through life, through business, through whatever you do, you're going to succeed because there's no other alternative. There's nothing else that could happen. And that's where I want every single person who's listening to this podcast to be. And I'm going to close out with that, Bart. If you have anything to contribute,
I do. I just want to say that the metaphor that comes to mind is that you've never heard of a baby giving up trying to walk. He just doesn't go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to use my legs this whole lifetime. In their mind, everyone's walking around them. There's all this evidence that walking can happen. So babies just keep falling until they don't fall anymore. And I think what you're saying is get back to that mentality when there's only one option. We're going to figure this out. I don't think there's a lot of debate that the strategy and vehicle of selling on Amazon is really proven. Just like selling on Facebook, selling on YouTube, there's a lot of strategies that could sell your stuff. What I like about what you've done in your students, and of course I know a lot of them, is that you don't have to be the star. You don't have to be charismatic. You don't have to have a YouTube channel. You can pick a garlic press, and all of a sudden, if you do things right and keep failing and getting up and failing and getting up, maybe you're selling carrot juices at the end of the day, but guess what? You got $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 a day in revenue, and you can quit your day job. Like there's not many opportunities that really do that. And of course, mitigating what we're talking about, risk with insurance policies or not getting canceled. Obviously, you can't be a jerk, but it's one of those interesting business opportunities that even as your main deal, it should be your side hustle. Speaking of, I'm going to give you the website for the Amazon course, you talked a little about that. And then last week, you talked about some of my books and how they get them. I created a page called getbartsbook.com, and it's free. So if you want to download
I love it.
my Magic Question book, there's an audio book there. You can obviously buy them on Amazon or Audible, be great. But go to www.getbartsbook.com, jump in, join my mailing list, and learn what the Magic Question is. Shaheen, how do we get a hold of the Amazon Seller Program? I know that you're really selective, but if they do fill out the application and get a chat with you, how do they start that process?
Guys, just reach out to me. My email is publicly available. I respond to every single message. It might take me a minute to get a hold of you, but I respond to every single message, every single email I respond to personally. If you love the show, if you hate the show, if there's a guest that you would like to see, we're going to start having guests as we get warmed up, and we've got some great people lined up. We're going to get Chris Voss, author of Never Split the Difference, the FBI negotiator. We're going to get Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, Keith Ferrazzi, who wrote the book Never Eat Alone, and just a number of really amazing guests that both you and I have had the great pleasure of being friends with, and some pretty surprise big name guests have agreed to be on our show. So I'm super excited about you and me getting them on. And so the way you get a hold of me is through ShaheenShayan.com. The link will be on the show notes. It's ShaheenShayen.com or FBASellerCourse.com. Make sure you catch my other podcast, Billion, How I Became King of the Throw Pill Cult. And you've been listening to Hack and Grow Rich. Now, just really briefly before we go out, Bart, I want to ask your opinion on air, how you feel about this, at least for a partial topic for our next call. And this is going to be seen as blasphemy in the self-development business world. And a lot of people are going to be grinding their teeth and squirming about this.
I like it. I like blasphemy. I like stirring stuff up a little bit. What do you got?
You did, because you made a short film that I loved that was about gurus.
You know what? We're having that edited now. It'll be the next film festival. Hope you come out of the red carpet. Yeah, I like stirring up trouble, and I like attacking people's core beliefs and making them think, is that really true, or did I just believe my parents? What is your topic?
So Napoleon Hill, you mentioned, the author of the book, Think and Grow Rich. And a lot of the stuff is coming out now. It used to be like sacrosanct. Nobody would say anything. Tony Robbins has read it. I read it. I love that book. But do you know that it may be likely that he was a fraud?
No, and one of my friends runs his nonprofit. We may get her on the show. Let's talk about Napoleon Hill. That'd be fun.
I would love to. And there's been a few YouTube videos out about it. It turns out that Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford and a lot of the other people that he claimed that he knew and he wrote that book never had any records of him, nor did the presidents who he claimed that he had worked with and for and all the stuff at that time.
It's a great story. I'm not saying he's the next Jesus Christ, but it's a damn good story, and it's been published for 100 years, so who knows what happens before video cameras. I love that topic, so tune in next week for sure.
Yeah, and guys, if you want to hear that, you want to see that, reach out to us and let us know what you think. Is it okay to talk about Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich in success circles? Can we talk about him if potentially it might expose something in his past? Let us know. He also had a follow-up book called Outwitting the Devil, which was actually even better than Think and Grow Rich to some extent, but also even got crazier. So, all right, guys, Bart, thank you so much for being on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Bart Baggett, I am Shaheen Shayan, and this has been another episode of Hack and Grow Rich. See you next week.